Maduro is gone. We told you that story, but tonight the next phase is underway. President Trump just sat down with the CEOs of America's biggest oil companies at the White House. You see, the mission is simple. Rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure, reclaim what was stolen, and send energy prices into freefall. The details are being made and ironed out right now. And here's what's happening. Chevron, ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips all sent their top executives to the White House. These are companies that were robbed twice in Venezuela. Their assets were seized. Their investments were stolen. And for decades, previous administrations did absolutely nothing. Now, President Trump is putting them back in the game. He said it plainly, America built Venezuela's oil industry with American skill, technology, know-how, and dollars, and those assets were stolen outright. And now we are doing everything about it. The departure of Maduro makes an incredible future possible for both nations. And one of the things that America gets out of this is even lower energy prices. That is the deal. American companies rebuild, America benefits. Now, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you have built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've already built becomes just as important as growing it. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers. Visit nextnewsgold.com or call that number on the screen. Now, the ExxonMobil CEO, Darren Woods, said they have a very long history in Venezuela. They've had assets seized twice. But he said that they are confident that with this administration working hand in hand with the new Venezuelan government, positive changes can be put in place. ConocoPhillips CEO Ryan Lance, he called it a big and bold idea to use energy commerce instead of conflict. Secretary Wright said the first increase in activities will come from companies already there, and the Venezuelans who work for American companies will be returning home. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard just seized another Ghost Fleet tanker in the Caribbean, the fifth ship intercepted in Operation Southern Spear. The crackdown is accelerating. Let's go to the White House now. We have remarks from the president from this historic summit that was just held.
Last week, the United States Armed Forces performed one of the most spectacular military operations in American history, apprehending the outlawed dictator Nicolas Maduro for his crimes against the United States, crimes for which he has now been indicted and is in federal court awaiting trial. And he killed many people, millions of people, actually, and allowed jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums, drug dealers, drug addicts to pour into our country totally unchecked because of Sleepy Joe Biden's policy of open borders. The stupidest thing I've ever seen. We're getting them all out. The departure of Maduro makes it possible an incredible future for both nations, Venezuela and the United States, in which we will more closely integrate the economies of two major energy powers in the Western Hemisphere. Energy coming out of Venezuela was very small. One of the things the United States gets out of this will be even lower energy prices. As you know, last week.
So President Trump has done a direct action that is going to have a direct impact on you. And it's going to have a ripple effect, not just at the gas pump, because as you know, gas and energy prices, they affect the cost of transport, production. The entire supply chain is dependent upon the price of fuel. So President Trump took decisive action, restored American interests and investments overseas, and now it's going to have a dramatic impact on your wallet. Are they telling you that on CNN? Probably not. Here's more from the president.
after the act took place. Decades ago, the United States built Venezuela's oil industry at tremendous expense with American skill, technology, know-how, and dollars. But those assets were stolen from us, and we had presidents who did nothing about it. This president is much different than your other presidents. They did nothing about it. They stole it. Some of the people in this room were a little bit younger when that happened, but not that much younger. It wasn't that long ago. But they stole our assets like we were babies, and the United States did absolutely nothing about it. So now we're doing everything about it. Now we're doing 500% about it, but it's a long time after the act took place. So they stole from us, and it was taken by socialists and communists at the time, and Venezuela was going bad, really bad. And as much oil as they have, they're producing almost nothing, which is just a system. So we're really, if you look at it, we're taking back what was taken from us. Decades ago, the United States built Venezuela's oil industry at tremendous expense with American skill, technology, know-how, and dollars.
It's like the Panama Canal. Here's the vice president discussing the operation.
Military. As a Marine Corps veteran for my entire lifetime, presidents, and let's be honest, they were Democrats and Republicans, would send the American military to far-off places. They would get us involved in these endless quagmires. They would lose hundreds or thousands of American lives, and the American people would get nothing out of these misadventures. And now you have an American president who's empowered the American military to stop the flow of drugs into our country and to ensure that we, as opposed to our adversaries, control one of the great energy reserves that exist anywhere in the entire world. And he did it without losing a single American life in the process. It was an amazing operation. It's going to make our country richer. It's going to make our country more powerful. It's going to make our country safer. And it's going to lead to the decline, the further decline of drug overdose deaths in the United States of America. An amazing thing, and I'm happy to be here to talk about how we can make it an even bigger and better operation for the American people. Thank you, sir.
It is a twofold benefit. People are going to stop dying, and you're not going to be spending as much at the pump. Your grocery prices are going to go down. American interest is going to be restored. I mean, this all could have been done by any other administration, but they didn't do shit. Oh, that's right. They had an auto pen running the show. They were too busy allowing all the illegals in so they could go ahead and collect all the money, the billions of dollars, to continue to feed their schemes and send the remittances overseas to fund terror. Now, do you understand why the borders were wide open? It wasn't just for votes. It was so that these people could come in and be used in these schemes. Here's Marco Rubio.
In the country where. Thank you, Mr. President. And I think this is a reminder that everything this president does, everything President Trump does, is with the American people in mind. It was not in the national interest or national security of the United States and of our people to have in our own hemisphere a country, not just with vast energy reserves, but controlled by an indicted narco trafficker who flooded our country with illegal immigration, including drug gang members, openly cooperated with drug gangs, and by the way, stole the wealth of that country to fund a repressive regime and also benefit adversaries such as Iran. All of that is now changing. As part of this process, the first phase, of course, is the phase we're in now, which is the stabilization phase. We did not want to see destabilization in the country. We're working very cooperatively with the interim authorities there to provide a market for the sale of the wealth of Venezuela in such a way that benefits the people, both of the United States, but also the people of Venezuela. And as a reminder to everyone, the president announced this just 2 days ago. Every penny, everything they buy with the money that they're making from the oil now, Mr. President, will be bought from America. And that includes everything from equipment for the oil industry to food to medicine and everything in between. The second will be a phase of recovery, and that some of these phases will overlap, and that is to have a normal economy again where the money goes to the benefit of people, not the benefit of our adversaries or the benefit of elements in that country and around the world that are against our interests. At the same time as a process of reconciliation has to happen internally among the different sectors of society and politics and the like. And finally, the third phase, which is the most important of the three, is when the country fully transitions into a normal country that we have strong economic and diplomatic and relations with, that is friendly towards the United States, that's not a foothold for our adversaries, that serves our interests, but also the interests of the people. It'll be a country that is wealthy, a country that is prosperous for the people, not for a handful of criminals, but also a country that is supportive of our interests in the region and throughout the world. And we thank you, Mr. President, and the team you've assembled that have brought us to this point. A lot of work remains, important work, but this is historic. Thank you, Mr.
Historic indeed. And you're witnessing it. Here is the Chevron Vice Chair, Mark Nelson.
Yeah,
Great guy.
Again, I'll send Mike Wirth's regrets. He really wanted to be here, Mr. President.
Right. Great guy.
On his behalf, I have three very quick thank yous and an assurance I'd like to provide you all. The first thank you, Mr. President, is to you. It's thank you for convening this gathering. It's thank you for your leadership, and thank you for continuing to keep American energy domination in the forefront. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
The second thank you actually is to the cabinet. So Secretary Rubio, Secretary Burgum, Secretary Wright, your ability and commitment to continue to engage with the parties around the table to keep the world working is greatly appreciated. So thank you for that. And the final thank you actually would go to our Venezuelan employees of Chevron. They have been working tirelessly to operate safely, protect the environment in country, and their dedication and skill will help us in this next chapter. And finally, I'll close with the assurance. For more than a century, Chevron has been a part of Venezuela's past. We are certainly committed to its present, and we very much look forward as a proud American company to help it build a better future. And so, Mr. President, thank you for your leadership. Again, I'll send Mike Wirth's regrets. He really wanted to be here, Mr. President.
Great guy.
On his
Let's keep going. I get some more of these remarks from the ExxonMobil CEO, Darren Woods.
The opportunity, frankly, for the entire industry. Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity, frankly, for the entire industry to show up and provide a perspective. Frankly, we've been kind of unresponsive to the press regarding Venezuela, but I guess today's the opportunity to address the press directly with respect to a number of questions that have been asked of ExxonMobil. First and foremost, obviously, is the interest that we have in Venezuela. And I think, the way I would position that, I think one of the reasons why we see many of the industry players here is we're in a depletion business for a product that is in great demand and will be in demand for many, many, many decades to come. And as a depletion business, the biggest challenge we have is finding resources. There's an opportunity in Venezuela with all the resources there is we don't have that challenge of finding. We have the challenge of developing those resources. So I think it's in the best interest of these companies and, frankly, society as a whole for the industry to be interested in understanding what the opportunity here represents. I'll just share a philosophy that ExxonMobil has when we enter countries, because we do business all around the world in a number of different regimes. We take a very long-term perspective. The investments that we make span decades and decades, so we do not go into any opportunity with a short-term mindset. And there's a value proposition that we have to meet. It has to be a win-win-win proposition. It obviously has to be a win for the company and our shareholders and to generate a return for the investments that we make. It has to be a win for the government. The resources are an important source of revenue that helps support the people of the places that we do business. And it has to be a win for the people. We have to be wanted there and to be a good neighbor. And those three things ensure a stable, long-term platform for the large investments that we make for the long term. With respect to Venezuela in particular, we have a very long history in Venezuela. In fact, we first got into Venezuela back in 1940s. We've had our assets seized there twice. And so you can imagine to re-enter a third time would require some pretty significant changes from what we've historically seen here and what is currently the state. If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable. And so significant changes have to be made to those commercial frameworks, the legal system. There has to be durable investment protections, and there has to be a change to the hydrocarbon laws in the country. We're confident that with this administration and President Trump working hand in hand with the Venezuelan government, that those changes can be put in place. And with respect to the Venezuelan government, that perspective we don't have a view on. We haven't talked to the Venezuelan government, and obviously we have yet to assess the people's perspective with respect to ExxonMobil entering the country. In the short term, there are things that can be done while these longer-term issues are being worked. For us, we haven't been in the country for almost 20 years. We think it's absolutely critical in the short term that we get a technical team in place to assess the current state of the industry and the assets, to understand what would be involved to help the people of Venezuela get production back on the market. With the invitation of the Venezuelan government and with appropriate security guarantees, we are ready to put a team on the ground there. We also have a integrated set of capabilities from production to refining to trading, and I think we can be of assistance to getting the Venezuelan crude to market and realizing a market price to help, again, with the financial situation in Venezuela. So those are my short-term perspective that I have. I'd say maybe close with a thank you, Mr. President, for the work that you've done to secure not only the national security, but the energy security of the region. And then thank you, Secretary Rubio, Secretary Wright, Secretary Burgum, for your...
This is a sea change we are all experiencing right now. Here's about the U.S. Coast Guard seizing another Ghost Fleet oil tanker. There's no audio on this? Not hearing anything. Okay. Maybe not. Here's the president discussing the capture of Maduro.
Wanted him and nobody, well, it wasn't a hard decision. Democrats wanted him and Republicans wanted him, and nobody had what it takes to get him or didn't want to get him. I don't know, something happened, but he killed a lot of people. He sent a lot of bad people into our country. He emptied his prisons into the United States. He emptied his mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States, and did a lot of very bad things, but he was a big drug pusher. You see that because all the boats that we shot down, they came out of Venezuela. A lot of drugs. There's a lot of boats and a lot of drugs. There are very few boats operating right now. There's almost no boats. You can't find any boats.
I don't think anyone would go fishing in those
Not
waters.
a lot of people want to go fishing anymore. But we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water. And we are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country. But the cartels are running, and they're killing 250, 300,000 people in our country every single year. The drugs, it's horrible. It's devastated families. You know, you lose a child or a parent. I mean, parents are dying, too, with drugs. So we've done a really good job. We're knocking it down. The numbers are really getting to be... They're always going to be too high if you have one person, but they're going down just like the border. The border was a total mess for years. I did it the first time very quickly, and this time I did it even better because this was a bigger mess. This was a border like no other probably in the history of the world. There's never been a border like that when anybody could just walk into your country. Well, it wasn't a hard decision. Democrats wanted him and Republicans wanted him, and nobody had...
Let's see what else we've got here. We've got Exxon. Did we do Ryan Lance yet? No. Oh, here is more. The president discussing what they'll be doing with Venezuela with Sean Hannity.
What is your ultimate goal for the governance of Venezuela?
Prisoners that nobody thought they would ever see again are being released, yeah. And in many cases, good people is what I understand. But prisoners, nobody ever thought they'd be released. So we're going to be working with them and leadership of the country. And so far we've been working very well. You know, we picked up the Russian freighter that trudged out there.
Well, I want to ask you about that.
Well, they had some Russian ships guarding it, and they decided not to mess around with us. And we took that one. That's unloading the oil. But we're taking billions and billions of dollars worth of oil, and it'll be hundreds of billions of dollars. It'll be trillions of dollars. But we're going to be there till we straighten out the country. We'll see how the country's doing. But we'll be running the oil. We're meeting tomorrow with all of the big oil executives. We're going to be right here in the White House. We're going to meet with the biggest oil people in the world. They're all coming here. The top 14 companies are coming here. They're going to go in. They're going to rebuild the whole oil infrastructure. They're going to spend at least $100 billion. And it's an unbelievable oil that they have and an unbelievable quality of oil and amount of oil.
What is your ultimate goal for the governance of Venezuela?
Prisoners that nobody thought they would ever see again are being released, yeah.
There's so much to get to here. Here's Secretary Wright.
Regime. For 25 years, we've seen the collapse of the Venezuelan regime. Everything going the wrong direction. A totalitarian socialist dictatorship. What could go wrong? Everything has gone wrong, and conventional approaches to try to stop it have simply not worked. This is Trump being Trump, thinking out of the box, doing this in an entirely different way. A large military force is down there to enforce sanctions that were already in place, just simply not enforced. Now with this blockade, he's enforcing the sanctions, and guess what? We've got wildly different leverage now. We've got a Venezuelan government that wants to work with the United States, that wants to try to end the corruption and snuff out all the problems in their country. Or at least they're going to work constructively with us, because that's the only way they get oil revenue. This is using military force without firing bullets, without soldiers on the ground, but getting the full impact of that force. So I think we're going to see a very, very positive change in the trajectory of Venezuela, which is great for that country, but it's tremendous for the American people. It's going to push down energy prices as all this oil now is going to be able to come to market again. It's going to reduce the drugs, the criminality, the gun running, the kidnapping of American citizens, and all the indignities and all the disruption we've suffered in American society. I think it's going to come to an end. For 25 years, we've seen the collapse of the Venezuelan regime. Everything going the wrong direction. A totalitarian socialist dictatorship. What could go wrong? Everything has gone wrong, and conventional approaches to try to stop it have.
No one's done anything. Conventional approaches. What approaches? Venezuela is releasing large numbers of political prisoners as a sign of seeking peace. It's a very important and smart gesture. The USA and Venezuela are working well together, especially as it pertains to rebuilding in a much bigger, better, and more modern form their oil and gas infrastructure. Because of this cooperation, I've canceled the previously expected second wave of attacks, which look like it will not be needed. However, all ships will stay in place for safety and security purposes. At least $100 billion will be invested in big oil, all of whom I will be meeting today at the White House. Let's see, here's more from Secretary Wright.
But yes, look, the first increase in activities will be among the companies that are already there. So they already have operations, but sanctions from the U.S. government limit those operations. We're going to say, look, we're working with this government to move things forward in a productive fashion. We're going to remove this sanction here. We're going to give you a license here to allow them to grow their businesses. Some of the companies that left and have not re-entered yet employ over 1,000 Venezuelans whose first reaction to this is, I want to go home. I want to go home. Put me in, coach. So we're going to see Venezuelans returning home to their countries that already work for a number of American companies and international companies abroad. I hear in the news like we've got to twist people's arms and force them to go down there. It's quite the opposite. I get a barrage of incoming inquiries. Hey, we're very interested. Can we talk to you about our interest to go back to Venezuela? So it's going to be commercial interest that drive them down there. But I think it's the increased stability and the prospect for a better Venezuela that's the draw right now for businesses. Yes, look, the first increase in activities will be among the companies that are already there. So they already have operations, but
they've got operations, they've got a foothold. They'll be the first ones to benefit. Here we have President discussing Cuba.
Yeah.
Cuba totally relies on Venezuela for money and for oil, and they give Venezuela protection. That was always the deal. They're very tough. They're good soldiers. They got wiped out, as you know.
Yeah.
3 days ago, wiped out. I don't want to even say how many, but they got wiped out. But Cuba gives protection to Venezuela, and Venezuela gives Cuba money through oil.
Yeah.
And it's worked that way for a long time.
You talked about...
But it doesn't work that way anymore. So I don't know what Cuba's going to do. I think Cuba's going to fail. I don't think there are any alternatives for Cuba. Cuba totally relies on Venezuela for money and for...
the next domino to fall. This is a complete reshaping of our hemisphere. Venezuelan American Lee Soto.
Maduro was a brute. It really brings me a lot of disgust to see how Democrats are trying to score political points when they once agreed that Maduro was a brutal dictator that needed to be taken out.
In 2020, Chuck Schumer said that at the time, President Trump had not brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
Democrats are instinctively getting pushed by their base to go against their initial beliefs.
Now you hear Chuck Schumer out there saying this is reckless. The American people and the Venezuelan people should be in fear.
We had cases where people couldn't find medicines and had to die in the hospital. We've had mothers that were pregnant, had to deliver their babies outside on the streets because there was no access. I am a Venezuelan American that fled to this country when I was 10 years old. I am thankful for the life that the United States has given me. And so I ask people to sign this petition so that we can put some pressure on the Democrats to stop being two-faced and start going back on their original beliefs that Nicolas Maduro is a murderous dictator that needs to be removed and freedom needs to be given to Venezuela.
Freedom is coming, and it's starting with this guy right here. See, Vice President J.D. Vance spelled it out. The operation is going to make our country richer. It's going to make our country more powerful. It's going to make our country safer, and it's going to lead to the future decline of drug overdose deaths in the U.S. Trump made clear that Cuba's protection racket with Venezuela is finished. Cuba gave protection. Venezuela gave oil money. That doesn't work anymore. Trump said he doesn't know what's going to happen with Cuba. He thinks Cuba is going to fail. So here's what's happened. The President of the United States sat down with the leaders of American energy and laid out the plan. Rebuild Venezuela, bring millions of barrels back online, do it through commerce instead of conflict. No endless wars, no nation building, just leverage, economics, and American dominance. ExxonMobil is confident. ConocoPhillips is ready. Chevron is on board. Secretary Wright says the Venezuelan government wants to work with America because that's the only way they get oil revenue. The old order is collapsing. The MAGA World Order is in effect. Cuba is losing its lifeline. The drug pipeline is being severed. Energy prices are falling, and American companies are reclaiming what was stolen, yes, stolen decades ago. This is peace through strength in action. So here's my question. Should American oil companies take the lead in rebuilding Venezuela? Yes or no? Answer in the comments, and check out the Next News merch shop in the description.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.